this the best code that you can actually start out with in Raidshadowlegends? Fear not, I am a 100% free-to-play player, and today we are going to be discussing one of the most talked about link codes or starter codes that anybody could actually use. Now when this link actually first came out, nobody really wanted it because this champion was actually quite garbage. However, it has been buffed by a ton, and now it's actually very much reliable in clan boss and can also be very good in dragon because it is a crazy poisoner. In the Knight's Revenant, Norma the Return. I don't have her on my main account, but today we're going to be reviewing this code. She comes alongside 3 other really good epics. We will talk about all of them, and then I'll be giving you guys my final verdict if this code is actually going to be very good and worth your while to actually start out with. For Norma's A1, we actually have a single target. Each hit can be booked up to 75% chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs on the target by 1 turn. Now this skill is very good and can be compared to Vizier. However, Vizier's is a triple hitter, with each hit actually having a chance of increasing the duration of all debuffs. But Norma with a 75% chance on the A1 is still not bad, especially if you can have a counter-attack team. If you guys have Skull Crusher, Valkyrie, Martyr, then it is actually going to make Norma so much better. Then on the A2, we have another single hitter. Can be booked out to a 100% chance in a 3-turn cooldown of placing Decreased Attack, Leech, and then instantly activating all of the poison debuffs on all enemies. Now this is very good because you can actually do a lot of speedrun teams, and this skill also prevents the clan boss from filling up with maximum amount of poison all of the time, because again we will extend every single hit, right? And since we have the debuff explosion, we can actually keep placing even more poisons, dealing more damage. And to top it all off, we also have a massive heal, 25% of this champion's max HP. And this champion's base HP is really high, even with really high defense. So Norma is actually going to be a very solid champion for the clan boss and dragon. And then on the A3, we have another single hitter. Can be booked up to a 100% chance and 3-turn cooldown. You can place 3 poison debuffs and a 25% poison sensitivity. And if the initial target is already under 3 or more debuffs, places 3 poisons and the poison sensitivity on all enemies instead. So this makes her really viable for speedrunning some of the content, because you can actually just keep exploding the waves, which will deal a ton of damage and can speed up a ton of time. And if you guys aren't familiar already, we have some other variations of poison explosions to speedrun the spider and even the waves on certain dungeons. Then on the passive right here, basically whenever an ally is attacked, we have a chance of placing poison. This works similarly to Geo. Basically, if he gets hit, we have a chance of proccing War Master, right? It applies here. Every single time you get hit, you have a chance of placing poison, and this will actually be better during the affinity bosses, because affinity bosses will hit twice, unlike the Void, which will only hit once. And of course, enemies under poison, we actually get a nice 25% damage reduction, which is going to be very good again for clan boss. On her accuracy aura, however, it is going to be an 80, but it only works in the dungeons. So honestly, it would be better if it was everywhere in the game, but dungeons is also completely fine. So what have we got in Norma? Well, pretty much you can already notice that she is of course going to be one of the best, if not the best, clan boss champion that you can start out with from all of the codes. But she is of course going to be lacking in terms of damage everywhere else. So if your main priority is just going to be clan boss, Norma the Return is actually going to be a very solid option. However, do not fear. Norma, again, like I mentioned earlier, will actually come alongside a few of the epics. And with the first epic we actually have, it's going to be in the Ogre Tribes. One of my personal favorites, it's going to be Ugo. Ugo's A1 is basically just a leech. That's it. On the A2, however, it is going to be an AoE decreased defense and block buffs. Unfortunately, the block buffs is not 100% chance unless we have 4 enemies alive on the enemy team. So this skill works very well for Hydra. However, it's going to be significantly more garbage if there are only 3 or less enemies left. On the A3, we have removes all heal reduction debuffs from all allies, and then removes 1 extra debuff from all allies. Then we also get a 20% HP heal, which is very good because again, she's just like Tama, very high HP. And if all allies are dead, revives them with 50% HP, and then fills their turn meter by 50% instead. Can be booked out to a 4-turn cooldown. So this is also a possible revive skill, however, everybody in your team needs to be dead. And then on the passive right here, we have an increased speed and block damage if this champion is the last one alive. So she works very well for cheesing because again, she's going to have block damage and then you can revive all of your allies. Then you can keep going and hopefully you should not have your run end yet. For the next champion, this is honestly one of the best, if not the best epic, second to Geomancer possibly. And that is going to be a Sacred Order epic that I personally love, one of my top favorites. However, I don't use him anymore on my main account, which is this account. And that is going to be Deacon Armstrong. Deacon Armstrong has the double hitter on the A1, has a chance of placing a leech, just like Ugo, 50% each hit by the way. On the A2, we have a 100% chance, 3-turn cooldown, decreased defense. Then on the A3, this makes him super unique, guys. This is what makes Deacon one of the best champions in the game, because you can actually fill turn meter, decrease turn meter, and then grants an extra turn, which means this is essentially on a 2-turn cooldown. You can even go as far as saying as this decreased defense is on a 2-turn cooldown, because if it's on 3 turns, you gain an extra turn. Both of these skills actually lessen 1 cooldown. And to top it all off, he also has an ally speed in all battles by 19%, making him one of the fastest champions in the game. And he is also used for a lot of major clan boss teams that require to be speed tuned. And if you guys did not know already, in order to clear Ultra Nightmare, 99% of the time your team has to be 100% speed tuned correctly. And Deacon Armstrong does help out a ton because it will drop your speed requirements by a lot. I will show you guys the champions on my account later on. I actually do have them built out. But for the final epic that you will get, and honestly this is probably the worst epic you will get, and that is going to be Tagore. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm not exactly a fan of Tagore. Yes, his kit actually sounds very good and it's quite solid. But me personally, I never found a use for him. Like look, his A1 is going to be an increased defense on the ally with the lowest current HP, right? A2, we have increased speed with a small heal. His HP is slightly lower than Ugo's. Then on the A3, we have an AoE revive. This is basically where he comes in. He's got a revive you can use anytime that you actually want. He can also place a shield buff, which is equal to 20% of this champion's max HP, but it's on a 5-turn cooldown, which is very rare that you actually get to use it that often, and it's quite hard to speed tune. The passive is also quite wonky. It only decreases the damage taken if they're under 50% HP, and by that time you're basically dead already if that's going to be clan boss or in arena or wherever it might be. He does have a nice aura HP here, so yeah, that's I guess a redemption point. But honestly, I don't really like Tagore. Tagore is probably one of the worst epics you could actually get nowadays from those codes, because you can have Ugo, you have Deacon, and you already have Narma. What is really the point of Tagore there? He's just a filler champion in my opinion. I'll be comparing them to their competition as well, so the other champions that you can get from other codes. But I'm just going to show you guys right now. I have built out most of these champions. I have Ugo. I have 2 of them actually. One of them is fully built. We have Deacon. Again, we have one that's fully built. Then we also have Tagore, which is a 6-star. And I used for Faction Wars and I never used him anywhere else in the game. There is another version wherein instead of actually getting Ugo and Deacon, you will actually be getting Venomage. So one of those first champions is of course going to be Venomage. Venomage will bring you a ton of poisons again. Heal reduction. On the A2, we got decreased defense and decreased attack if they're under a poison debuff. A1 is an explosion for poisons and can destroy the target's max HP. Useless for clan boss though. But he does also bring a nice damage reduction for you guys. This will stack with Narma's passive, which is very good. And unlike Narma, we actually have an increased ally accuracy in all battles by 45. It's lower, but it's in all battles. Then the next one, instead of Deacon, you will actually get another Sacred Order champion, and that is one that I don't have on my main account. That is going to be Mordecai. Now Mordecai is very good. It's similar to Deacon, but of course going to be much worse, because we have increased turn meter and then field turn meter. However, we do not get an extra turn. But he makes up for that because he also brings increased attack and HP burn. Basically, Mordecai is just going to be used for Spider, because Spider you want to be using HP burns. It's going to speed up your runs by a ton. So now the competition, honestly, is just going to be legendaries. Legendary Corvus. Corvus is quite similar to Norma the Return because you can actually get a lot of poisons with a damage reduction on the A3. I'm not going to be going too in-depth. If you guys want an in-depth guide, make sure you guys do check out my other videos because I have talked about these other codes, comparing them actually. Then on the A2, we have increases the duration of all enemy debuffs and then increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn on a 3-turn cooldown. Personally, I favor Corvus more because of this. You can actually increase the duration of your ally buffs, which makes it so much better to speed tune for Ultra Nightmare. And then on the A1, he also does bring in decreased attack. So if you guys are not rocking the unkillable teams, then Corvus is going to be very good because of the decreased attack. Speed tuning potential, damage reduction, poisons, and then of course a massive ally defense lead in all battles by 30%. Another champion that it's going to be fighting with is a raw damage dealer in the Dwarfs faction. That's going to be Tholin. Now, Tholin is basically just a massive nuker. That is all he does. He will deal a ton of damage, but he can also decrease the target's attack. So it's actually very solid, and he also increases his own attack, and as you can see, his base attack is ridiculously high. So Tholin is actually going to be super good if you're talking about raw damage. However, he brings 0 utility, so unless you guys need, or if you guys are trying to just play for fun, I would not recommend starting with Tholin Falbeard. And of course, alongside that, you will also be having the Ezio Chase. I believe it should be fixed now, so when you log in, it should be Ezio once again. Ezio brings a ton of poisons, just like the other starting champions, such as Corvus and Narma. And so that does pretty much wrap up the video, guys. If you want me to compare some other codes, make some fun videos, make sure you guys do comment that down below, and I'll see you all in the next video.